Hey everybody, it's Danielle Kelley, D Kelley 21 here today with my co-host, Big Game James 36, James Coleman for 36 Degrees, and we are honored and privileged to be with the legendary Coach Mickey Andrews. I'm all giddy schoolgirl right now because it's Coach Mickey Andrews. Get to talk about some of your memories and how you're doing and some of James's memories and mat drills. We're going to cover mat drills.
Always mat drills.
Always mat drills. And before we go today, we have to explain to people that may not know what a mat drill really is.
Yeah, I actually want to know the actual clinical definition of mat drills. I just know it's hell. It was that's what I knew it as, but I'm also a little nervous. I mean, this is interviewing Coach Bowden last week was different, but this is the guy that actually yelled at me all the time, and so I'm afraid he's gonna make me run if I say the wrong thing or if I ask the wrong question. But how you doing? First of all, how you doing? How you feeling, Coach?
I'm doing good, James. Like a lot of us, when we get at this age, you slow down a little bit, and the weight will creep up on you if you're not careful. And I'm not as disciplined now as I used to be. So I've got to get back on it and get my weight straightened out.
So you haven't gotten that Popeye's chicken sandwich yet?
No.
Stay away, because it's
I just do the box.
That's good too. You're one of the most. So everybody knows who Coach Bowden is, but very rare do you have coordinators who are as iconic as you were walking the sidelines, and people were synonymous. You're synonymous with FSU. Even though the years have passed, people still remember Mickey Andrews and the Mickey Andrews defenses. Can you explain to us at first, like what embodied a Mickey Andrews defense or a player who could play on that side of the ball?
Well, it really wasn't about me. It wasn't Mickey Andrews. It was about a group of young men who were determined to be the best they could be. And you'd mentioned mat drills earlier. We just called them get better drills. It's a time, and we always did them early in the morning, like at 5:45. And it was a deal where we asked everybody to strain themselves at a level that just really wasn't normal. You can't get to be the best if you don't give your best. And since it's not common, not many people can do that without some help. And our job as coaches was just to make sure that we help the player get to the point that he could achieve the success he wanted to as a player so that he could contribute to the team. But as far as it wasn't my defense, it was our coaches. We had some great coaches through the years that had maybe more to do with it than I did. And then, like I said, go back and any accomplishment, I think, unless it's just an individual sport, and even then they have to rely on other people. But it's about learning to perform at a level that you have to. I saw the team practice the other day, and after the practice, I told them, if I were just watching you practice today, not knowing who you were practicing for, and I mentioned the name of a team, I won't mention it now. I wasn't being derogatory, but I said, the way you practiced today, it was very evident that you're not serious about beating Florida and Miami and Clemson, the top tier teams. You got to start in state. You got to beat the folks in your home state. That was always one of our goals, team goals, was to be the state champion. But I don't know. It's just something that when you're successful, it's about a lot of people doing their jobs and about a desire to get there that most people won't push themselves to strain and reach that point.
What was some of whether it be mat drills, whether it be practice, obviously you say you had some great motivators of men. guy that I remember my freshman year. Well, you had guys like Coach Kynes, obviously. You had Odell. You had you were able to bring a guy who's now considered in his own right a great defensive mind, and Coach Kevin Steele.
Yeah.
Man, wow! I think many people. Actually, let's talk about that. Many people know about the players.
Right.
They know about Dion. That's easy. They know about Derek Brooks, Marvin Jones. Who were some of the coaches that kind of came up under your umbrella that helped you? Like you said, it wasn't just your defense; it was a collective. But who were some of the guys that stick out so that the people can know, like you're a pretty good motor of men all around?
Well, it's just like you'd mentioned. You think about several guys, and when we first started the first year, Coach Chuck Amata, and Jim Gladden. We had some. Odell wasn't even here then, but we had a group of guys that we really kind of believed in the same thing about stressing fundamentals, about being sound, playing harder than the folks that we were going to play against. We were just trying to develop a mindset, so that our players understood that everything that we did was to try to, like I said, become our very best. But you mentioned Kevin Steele, you mentioned Joe Kynes. Jody Allen came in and helped us. Even Kirby Smart was here for a little while as a GA. We just had a number of people that they didn't think in terms of being average. It don't take much to be average, but it was always trying to reach that level and the only way we knew how to do it was outwork people. We were going to outwork, we were going to out-hit, we were going to out-prepare anybody that we were going to play against. And it's just like coming up this week with it's this week.
It's Saturday.
With Boise State. I just can't wait to see how much these guys have improved and how they can perform as a team. But it all starts with, to me, want to.
Always.
And if you want to win, you got to do things it takes to win. I go back to my first year as a freshman at Alabama. In our first meeting, Coach Bryant told us, said, we're going to win here with you or without you. And there were several guys that didn't end up at the end of those 4 years that were better players than some of us that were still there. But he said the first step to winning is to keep from losing. And I don't know any statement's not any more true than that. Your silly penalties, your silly mistakes, missing tackles, tackling. You can't tackle without your eyes, your hands, and your feet, all three working together. And, we used to spend you know how much time we spent working on tackling, and we probably spent more time working on the goal line. And I really thought that maybe the things that Coach Bowden did that was so important was that he let us train them like we did during the mat drills, because what you were doing was training their mind and their heart. You weren't doing football stuff.
Right.
We didn't do football stuff until we went to practice. But it was always, we were going to hold the kids accountable at the highest level. And, sometimes a better athlete might be on the bench because he wasn't strong enough mentally or physically to achieve that level. But, want to was a thing that we were going to try to recruit and try to get out of the kids. And we had a lot of success with it.
You three, I remember growing up, you, Coach Rick, and Coach Bowden were just such a similar mindset, similar accord in the way you handled the program. Tell us how you even came here and met Coach Bowden and got hired, and we were lucky enough to get you.
Well, I'd worked in small colleges in Alabama for several years as assistant coach and then a head coach. And we'd had some success and ended up going to Clemson for 4 years with Charlie Pell and stayed 2 with Danny after Charlie left. And then after that, our entire defensive staff ended up at Florida. And Joe Kynes, Dwight Adams, Mike Bugar, who played here at Florida State. And was there 2 years, then an opportunity to go to the Arizona Wranglers in the USFL. Was a good experience, but it was also a humbling experience because we didn't do very well. But anyway, what happened, the owner of the Blitz, Chicago Blitz, was a heart surgeon there in Phoenix. The guy that owned the Arizona Wranglers was a real estate guy from California. And so the doctor in Phoenix talked the real estate guy to switching clubs, location. So all the Wranglers went to Chicago and all the Blitz went to Arizona. And of course I told him I shouldn't say, I don't think I'm prejudiced. Maybe I'm a little bit. Not racially, but probably distant white.
Yeah.
Somebody told me one time about moving to New Jersey, I think it was. I said, I don't know a thing that's good come out of New Jersey, and I shouldn't have said it because not many good things have come out of South Alabama either. But
Hey, I'm kidding.
yeah, her folks were raised there in Dothan, I think it was.
Dothan and Headland.
Ozark was like 20 miles from there. But anyway, I'm sitting out there going through my son's senior year. I got to go to every ball game that he played in that I wouldn't have gone to any if I'd have been in college. I even worked in the concession stand. They fired me from that job because I couldn't speak the language of those folks out there in Phoenix. There were a lot of Hispanics, whatever. And it didn't sound like Southern talk to me. So anyway, I got to do that, but Hooter Ingram called me and wanted to know if I'd be interested in coming to Florida State, and I said, yeah, I really would. And so I actually visited with him. I knew him better than I did Coach Bowden. And, the funny thing about it, we got to talking. And so Coach wanted me to come interview, and I said, well, this is right before Christmas. I said, well, I'm coming home. I'm bringing my family to Ozark, and I could interview then. And so he said, okay. And then later on, we set it up, and we did our interview in McDonald's, eating a Big Mac. And I'm thinking to myself, anybody that will do an interview for a defensive coordinator in McDonald's, that's my kind of guy.
That's awesome.
And but the Lord just worked it out for us to come here, and I've never been anywhere over 3 or 4 years normally. And lo and behold, finished my career here, 26 years. And I can say that it's some of the best times of my life. It didn't take much to turn from a Gator to a Seminole, I can promise you that.
So anybody who's listening, especially the people who follow me, if you listen, it's okay. It's flip season.
Yeah.
We are taking on. We are flipping commitments. Here we're gonna have to sanitize you a little bit, but that's okay. It doesn't take much.
Well, I do have Gator friends.
Yeah. I mean, they don't know no better. They were born that way. We gotta just try. You gotta help flip that energy. You talked a lot about attention to detail and accountability.
Yeah.
And that's something that I know firsthand from seeing it in practice and obviously mat drills. what were some of the ways that you were able to make sure that people did it your way? Like, what were some of the things that, like, so if, for example, just people who are coaching, some advice, some things that you guys did to have them do it the Florida State way?
Well, it wasn't my way. It was a Florida State way. If you're gonna perform at a level to compete for championships, whether it be state or conference or national, whatever it is, you got to develop a championship attitude. I think just about anything you do is controlled by your attitude, you know. And somewhere along the line, it was just like Coach Bryant told us, we're going to win here either with you or without you. And what he was saying was, you guys make a decision. And at that time, it was the Alabama way. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of things that we did in the off-season program at Florida State, the MAT program, we did them at Alabama. A lot of the defenses that we played, they're the same thing we did at Alabama. Now, a good bit of it we adapted or got some help from other schools. Nebraska, their staff, we used to take our staff out there, our defensive staff, and we'd visit with them 3 days in spring training, watching them and going to meetings and everything. And then they'd turn around and come back and visit us. In fact, Tom came and visited one year, and it's kind of funny seeing a well-known head coach sitting up there in the stands while we were doing the off-season program, the match. But we got a lot of ideas and shared them with each other through the years. And of course, Kevin Steele was part of that staff, the defensive staff. And but if you know, there's just not room. There's not a lot of room at the top. You can't have but one number one. You know, it's just like we played in 5 national championship games here. We didn't win but 2 of them. We lost 3 of them. So we let 3 opportunities get away by not being at our best when our best was required. And then I don't know how many times we played Florida and Miami. They kept us from being in the national championship game. Maybe cost us a championship.
They didn't play each other though.
No, that's true.
I'm always going to bring that up.
But you know, when I got here, that was one of the things we always talked about, winning a national championship. And I got to thinking, what are our odds on winning a national championship? The most important thing was to win the state championship. And so that became a priority for us. Then when we got in a conference, it was to win the conference championship. But if you don't have a championship attitude, you won't do the things that you got to do to become a champion.
Man, let me tell you.
Now, does that mean that there's only one champion? Well, when you start passing out rings and trophies, it is. But I'm not so sure that when you come in 2 in the nation, there's a bunch of other teams that would like to be in there with you. I think there's 131 teams in Division I right now, and you know, to be in the top 2, that's pretty respectable. Heck, we did it 14 years in a row that we were in the top 4 or 5. People just don't know what a big deal that was, really. I know Alabama's on a run right now, and they did win more national championships than we did. But to me, to see what Coach Bowden accomplished and the standard that he set and maintained throughout all those years, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. We talk a lot, and the reason why I'm bringing up this a lot is just, again, having to compete day in and day out with some of the most amazing athletes that you would ever see during my 4 years at Florida State. Growing up in Tallahassee, during that 14-year run, like it was great because on Saturday when I picked up the Sunday newspaper as a kid who didn't play football, organized ball till ninth grade, you'll see the color photos of FSU wins, and then you'll see FAMU wins. It was just really good football played in Tallahassee during that time period. You had the Mark Richt offenses, you had the Mickey Andrews defenses, you also had Billy Joe's the original Gulf Coast offense. Tag kind of bit that a little bit, but that's okay. We'll let you have that. You brought it back to Tallahassee. You see all these things, but let me give you guys a little glimpse of what I remember and what I recall after wins or loss. We got a blowout win, but I remember the look of fear on a Monday practice of guys like Ernie Sims, Broderick Bunkley, Antonio Cromartie, Brian McFadden, these guys, and they didn't matter if you made the play. You got judged on if you did your assignment the right way. So you could have made the tackle, but if you didn't make the tackle the way that they wanted you to make the tackle, and you missed your assignment, you broke your assignment off, they felt you were lazy, so that's a loaf. And shoot. And then also on top of it, you got extra gassers. You got an opportunity to get in better shape. And that's on top of what the mandatory gassers were anyway. So then if they scored so many points, you get an opportunity to run in condition. So it behooved you to be able to do things the right way. And I even remember stories of like Peter Boulware and Andre Wadsworth saying that they had big sacks, but they knew come Monday that they had to run because they got that sack, but they didn't get the sack the right way. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. So, I mean, just that accountability, there were some opportunities. And then even going into mat drills, did y'all always do the grading system with mat drills? Because when I was there, you had the 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. We didn't actually start doing it. It was just something that we felt would be a better way to show accountability and effort, doing it the right way.
Right. So a 4 is perfect. But you can't, but it's not perfect by doing the drill pristine. It's about getting your teammates through it. So like you did it perfectly and you were a leader. If you just did the drill perfectly, you probably got a 3. But if you got 4s across the board, I think you got a chance to coach up mat drills the next day. You still had to be there. You just didn't have to go through it that time. And then if you did not hold the standard, then you got a 0. You got a unique opportunity to do mat drills before mat drills, and that's not that ain't fun. That ain't fun at all. So,
well, it's like you said, it's about accountability. We were going to recognize guys that achieved at the highest level. They sat on the front row when we had our announcements and before we started the workout, and we actually filmed the workout, and after it was over, the coaches would go back and they would look at it again and they would grade it just like you graded a game, a player. And we said, how can we encourage guys to push up to the next level? And we said, well, the number one thing, we can't have, when you're playing a ball game, 10 guys may be perfect, and one guy misses a play, he doesn't do his job, and you give up a touchdown. It causes your team to lose. So we said, well, we would send a guy back for not giving great effort. And we just say, do it again. They go back to the line, and then they'd do it again. If they had got sent back 3 times, they came back the next workout at 5, and they went through 30 minutes of an opportunity to make up for what they didn't get the day before. They rested 10 minutes, and then they had to go through the entire program again.
From the beginning.
And you don't want to do that, believe me. It's tough enough just going through it.
Stretch, everything from the beginning. Yeah, that's it. And it's just, again, it's not even, like, you could be ready and you did the drill, But if your teammate behind you was not in an athletic position, ready to go, you got to get back up again and start over again. And he left out this one little fine minute detail. If, say you're the first group, if you get sent back, you go all the way to the end, but you are always the first group.
Yeah.
So you had to do it again, but you don't get to go behind everybody else and rest. You got to get your ass right back to the front of that line and get ready to do it again. But again, it was chaos. It was chaos, and in the beginning, you saw a team form. So you're fighting against each other. And you're like, man, you made us go back. You made us do this, blah, blah, blah. And they're just yelling at you and getting on you. And then you eventually realize after a couple sessions that us fighting each other isn't going to achieve the desired result. We got to push ourselves, and we got to come together, and we got to move as a unit. And typically what you saw in that last workout was everybody, even the back rows, were typically moving as a unit. And I'm sure coach could go back and look at those championship teams. The off season and the way they did mat drills was probably so much better than it was. And even when we had adversity, I remember my senior year, which was one of which we won the first actual ACC championship, where we played the game against Virginia Tech, and everybody kind of counted us out. A lot of us just went back and we remembered the fact of what we did in the off season, and the season did not look, it wasn't on pace to be what we envisioned in the beginning, but toward the end, when we saw our eyes on the prize, we came together and we beat Virginia Tech pretty good. Solid. And obviously did what we needed to do, and then we played Penn State, went into I think 3 overtimes. But what were some of the that was some of the memories that I had. But what were some of the more iconic games that you remember coaching? Because you've gone up against obviously the Steve Spurrier offenses, you've gone up against the Nebraskas of the world. What were some of the more iconic games and some of the games that you just really lived to coach against?
Before I mention that, let me go back and just mention this. When a guy didn't perform at the level we expected him to, when he had to go back and do it again, we're telling him, you're practicing losing. You're going to get us beat with that kind of intensity. And we said, if you're going to practice it 3 times, you're probably telling us you don't really want to play because you ain't going to give what it takes to beat a Miami or a Florida or a Clemson, whoever. And, when we did it, you remember you always worked in groups of 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. So when you made your group go, but when you had to go back, you made your entire group go back. So you're holding yourself accountable to those other players. And that's the kind of thing till you can get the players to buy into it. The coach's job, if you got guys loafing, that's not the player's fault, that's the coach's fault. And so we wasn't going to adjust our standard for their convenience. And you always had to have the consequences for not participating at that level had to be greater, and you could not let them get by with it by giving less than what it took. And I think about all those times on the goal line. Every time that we let the offense score on the goal line, we would run a gasser after practice.
Oh, yeah.
That was a penalty. We didn't penalize them for it. We just told them, that is not acceptable behavior on the goal line.
Oh yeah, you cussed me out one time during 2 days, but
you must have been a little delirious, and I was probably talking a little louder and faster and spitting.
Oh no, it was just it wasn't necessarily at me. It was just we might have got the better of the defense that day in the goal line drills, and those guys
that happened a few times.
They had to run a little extra because they couldn't stop the fullback dive.
Yeah,
but
34 wow.
Yes, sir.
I know what it is. But I go back and I think about that great goal line stand up at the Meadowlands when we played Kansas, I believe it was, where they had the ball 12 plays inside the 10-yard line. We said, well, how can you do that? Either score or how did you end up with that many plays? Well, we helped them 2 times. We had penalties. We were offside one time, and I think we had a defensive holding penalty. And so we gave them first downs. They didn't earn it. We just gave it to them. But our deal was that we said the offense wasn't going to score because we wouldn't let them. The offense didn't decide if they scored, we did. And by putting it like that, and then our kids bought into it. And that was our favorite part of the field. I always enjoyed going down there more than I did anywhere because you get your backs against the wall, you're going to find out what kind of people you are in a hurry.
It's very true. Goal line, definitely. That's kind of the only thing I miss about today's game. It's not as it's not as violent, as physical.
But I really think a lot of our success, well, it had to do with players, number one, and then number two was a group of coaches that were determined to help them reach the standard that every one of them said they wanted to reach. I remember players come in and they said, "Why are you coaching? Why are you making it so tough on us?" I said, "Well, did you say you wanted to make All-American? Didn't you say you wanted to go to the pros? Didn't you say you wanted to win a championship? We're just trying to hold you to what you said you wanted." And that unarms a kid in a hurry right there. And I know every time we'd been on a kid pretty hard or at practice, when we go off the field, we'd go through the locker room and talk to him about it. And, he may be so mad, he just biting nails or whatever. You want me to back off and let you make it easier on you? No, I never said it that way. Were you serious about it when you said what you wanted to achieve? Well, I'm just trying to hold you to that standard. Now, if you want to get mad about that, you ain't gonna help us get there anyway. But to me, like I said, we always talk about discipline. You got to be disciplined. But to me, what you're trying to build is self-discipline, not discipline, till the guy can make himself strong enough mentally and physically that he can perform at a high level without committing silly errors and whatever. You're not going to get what you want. And that was something that we said we were never going to change, and I don't think we did.
Not at all. They sure didn't. And Coach, tell us, if you will, what is the comparison to today's culture? Because you've been back now as defensive analyst. You've seen the practices, and you're part of the program. What is the change that you see between those days and these days? And I know that just doesn't apply here. It's school-wide everywhere. I get it.
I'm going to answer that in an unusual way. I heard a writer asked Coach Bowden that question. He said, "Have the players of today changed?" He said, "No, the parents have." I'm not sure that today's players across the board are as tough as they were back years ago. But I think the reason for that is the kids nowadays wasn't raised as tough as they were back then. And that just ties in with what Coach Bowden said to the reporter. Nowadays, people want to achieve without having to invest as much as you have to get there. They want it the easy way. Back years ago, we never had anybody have heat strokes or heat exhaustion or anything like that, and they wouldn't even let us drink water when we were practicing. But now, none of us lived in an air-conditioned house either.
Yeah.
There wasn't air-conditioned buildings. I don't think Mom and Daddy got a window unit till after I was in college a couple of years.
No indoor practice facilities. no. You were out
of those.
You were out in it.
You know, it's the way we were raised compared to now. Maybe more than the demands from the coach. It was from people in the community. It wasn't just mom and daddy. It was about school teachers. I mean, I look at it now, and one of the main problems we have in this world is lack of respect. We don't respect each other. What you got's mine if I want it bad enough. And I know I'm not supposed to be philosophizing, but that's just the way it is. There's so much that just common sense still is. I remember Jim Gladden. He always would say, "The best ability is dependability," and I think he was right. And it's just like we were talking about earlier about, do all kids need to go to college? Well, I don't think they do. I don't think they have to. We got to have welders. We got to have electricians. And I'm not putting down those, because those positions, you make pretty good living at those things. I think going to learning a trade, to me, is just as important for some kids as it is making All-American in football or whatever. The whole thing is not about, well, let me rephrase that. The main thing is to be the best that you can at what you're doing. And a lot of things build into that, but just pure old common sense and want to probably plays as big a role as anything.
I'm gonna remember that. Pure old common sense and want to.
It drops some jewels.
Yeah, you are.
Well, for years, everybody said that you can't run a mile under 4 minutes. Till Roger Bannister did, because they said your heart would literally burst trying to pump blood and oxygen over your body. He did it one day, and the next world-class race, there was 4 people broke the 4-minute mile. He just, he said, that's not true. I would have loved to watch him practice and prepare. Everybody wants to perform, but not many people want to prepare at the level you got to reach the top. And that was one of the things that we always said, and we were fortunate because most games that we played, we practiced against better players, against their offense, than we'd play against that week in the game. You stop and think about that. And the reason that is the case is because we got better every day. Every day we worked, because we were always working ones against ones.
That 96 recruiting class, them wide receivers must have drove you nuts in practice.
Oh. 3 of them redshirted.
Yeah,
we couldn't stop them.
Yeah, Dugan's, Trouble.
Yeah.
Peter.
Moss
was in that.
They were wearing our DBs out at practice a lot of days. I told Coach Bowden, I said, Coach, I don't know if we're going to be worth a flip this year because we can't cover our receivers.
Iron sharpens iron.
But that's like I said, we were practicing every day against a group of kids that were better than most of the people we played against.
That's... my bad. I apologize. I forgot Snoop was in that class.
I was about to say.
That's 5 guys in it. That's 5 NFL.
If you have to say T-Dub, you got to say Snoop.
There was only one good thing that I could see coming out of it. They were going to be on our side the next year.
There you go.
When we played. But they made our guys get better. Going against them.
I've kind of talked about that with this year's team, with our recruiting class we have now. We have one of the best secondaries in the nation. That's how I feel about it. With Akeem Dent coming in, Travis J, all of them, and Blackman's throwing up against them.
Yeah.
iron sharpens iron. I mean,
what do you think about that? I got a chance to see you at Saturday Night Lights. You get a chance to chop it up with those young guys.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on those young men coming in?
You talking about the guys that are freshmen or the guys that?
Well, either freshmen and the guys
coming in.
Yeah.
There were some outstanding athletes there. There's no doubt about it. And we had several of them committed. But it's just like you said, the talent with this freshman class, especially the DBs, is extraordinary.
Yeah. We have a long legacy of DBs, and that's because of you. I mean, that's the truth.
Well, we had a group of young'uns that came in, and they wanted to be great, and they didn't run away from preparation. And that's where, I always thought that, just like in games, whatever, between the season and the off season, I thought you won championships in the off season, and you lost them during the season.
Makes sense.
The ones that you did win, that you were able to maintain all the way through.
So, Coach Taggart, season 2, you've been around. We haven't talked about it. So, what are your thoughts, overall thoughts on Coach Taggart, his approach, some of the changes, and just even if there are any comparisons or anything, just so there's a lot of, like, you've been a little bit more intimate than a lot of us have. You got a chance to see him coach, got a chance to hang out around the program.
Well, when I left, last thing I did was just make some remarks or suggestions that I thought would be helpful in the off season, and and then in preseason and season, whatever. And one of the things I mentioned was you got to find a way to make the kids, everything you do becomes a habit. If a kid comes through a drill and he doesn't finish the drill right, it's the coach's fault if he lets him do that, because he's just affirmed to the kid that we can beat Florida and Miami and Clemson with that kind of effort, with that kind of finish. And so what the staff did last year, they went back for the off season, and they looked at our 1993, I think it was, national championship year off season program, and they put some of those drills in. And so I waited till next to the last workout, and I went over there and watched them, and they were doing the right things. They were doing the things that you got to do to get there. So when I get through, Odell comes up and said, "What do you think?" I said, "Odell, y'all didn't send enough of them back today." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Y'all didn't make them go back and do it right because they didn't finish it right." I said, "Every time that you let a guy go through a drill, you're telling him that was good enough to beat those teams. And you're cheating him, because I saw it myself, that wasn't good enough. You ain't going to beat Clemson and Miami and Florida with that kind of effort or that kind of finish." And so I saw progress. It's not about what you're doing, it's what you demand out of it and how you hold them accountable. And then I go back and I watch spring practice. I went 2 or 3 practices in spring game and went back this fall. And of course, it was odd, the day that I was out there, Coach Gladden and I were out there, and it was so hot that morning and humid. We were just soaked, and we were standing there. Well, they started off really good, and then as it went along, they got distracted by the heat and the humidity, and they gave in to it. And I told them, I said, "You did not perform throughout the practice with intent on practicing to beat those 4 teams or 3 teams. And so they told me, I was up there yesterday, and they said, Coach, that was the only day of bad practice. I had about 8 players tell me that, and 4 or 5 coaches, that it was the worst day that they had. Well, I said, well, dadgummit, that's good. At least you were prepared. You just had 1 bad quarter. I said, now you got to eliminate that quarter. And because if you're not playing at a championship, preparing at a championship level, you're going to save the school a lot of money on buying rings and plaques and all that kind of stuff.
We were talking about that the other day. They don't cancel games for a heat index. It don't matter how hot it is.
Because you can't count on that Florida and Miami and Clemson and those guys would have took a little time off that day too. You got to fight through that. And I told them, I said, I've been in after a practice like this, and there's 5 or 6 guys over there getting IVs. You know what I'm talking about. I said, I don't think there's one of you here today that would have needed one when you get in. And, sometimes you say things that are pretty hard, but it don't ever do any good to avoid the truth. So, and I can't wait till Saturday. I just hope they can get off, be successful in that first ball game and get this thing going, because I know they have put in the work.
We're moving to a 3-4. And I've read your 4-3 playbook. I got so many good quotes out of it. But we're moving to a 3-4. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think what they've tried to do is play a particular scheme that fits their personnel. Changes for change are not good. If it doesn't help you, if you're not utilizing your personnel better, you just blowing wind. But I think the kids are excited about it. The coaches. We just find out if they got enough that believe in it and will play at the level they got to in that first ball game. I think it'll be good for them.
Marvin Wilson seems excited.
Yeah,
and they got some guys like Marvin Wilson could play the nose, but if you put him in a 5 technique, he's pretty good. They got Big Coop, who's big, and that's kind of the guy that you really want to play if he can get in shape enough to play it. But they've done a really good job of in this last recruiting class, and even the ones coming up and recruiting, flipping that linebacker room. Guys like Kalen DeLoach, Jaleel McCray, those young guys are really good.
They're putting more talent on the field, speed-wise, and all that should be advantageous.
Just not going off these stars. They're going out and getting some guys that don't mind fighting.
Linebackers with speed, not just size.
Well, here's the thing about that star system. I never have liked it. We didn't have it when I was coaching. What they're doing is measuring ability and talent, whatever. The best star you need is in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Too many of those 5 stars don't have 5-star hearts. The more talented you are, the more you're out to rely on your talent instead of developing your fundamentals and all that goes with it. Dion was here for the spring ball game and the Saturday Night Live deal, and I asked him, said, Dion, how many stars do you think you would have had out of high school? And he said 2. And he was truthful. That's what I would have measured him at, as a 2-star player, a left-handed wishbone quarterback. And he was going to play receiver or DB when he got here, And I look around and I see a bunch of those guys the same way. They were bigger inside than they were outside, really.
I always judge it like this. Either you can play or you can't.
Yeah.
Star, it's a 5-star, 3-star, 2-star.
That's the number one.
Yeah. Do you have, and I tell kids all the time, and they think I'm mean, but I'm like, especially out of the Jacksonville area, which is a big area that feeds the Division I school, and they're like, Coach, I got offers from everybody, and I don't have off Florida State. Can you call some? I was like, no, I can't. I was like, I can't be the person that calls over to my alma mater and you go over there and suck. I got to go back home. I'm from Tallahassee.
That's right.
So, but I told them a lot of it is you just got to be able to fight and not fight just physically, but you got to be able to fight through it because there's so many things. The heat, Tallahassee has a different type of heat than anywhere else. That humidity gets on you.
And the other thing is too, James, is it don't always measure. Them stars don't go with what kind of fight you got in there.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those guys, once they get to college, they've never competed against that same athletic ability and skill. And if they don't have any fight in them, don't have any pride, the inside stuff, they're never going to be what they want to be.
Right, and then I understand a champion. You talked a lot about the championship mentality and not taking things personally and understanding that it's somebody's job to call out the greatness out of you. I deal with it with my daughter all the time. She's like, Daddy, these people talk to me any kind of way. I can't let. I said, that's not reality. Like, just because somebody says something to you out of pocket doesn't mean you get to be, because you don't know why that person's doing it. I said, you think when I went out there to practice that Billy Sexton always hugged me? It told me he liked me? No. He was he had a job to do, and I wanted to play, so I needed to do what was necessary, because again, that shows your toughness and then also going up against somebody else. There's a question I want to ask a teammate of mine, a good friend of mine, one Travis Johnson. You ever heard of that? Pretty good player. He told me to ask you about 2%. And why was that the number you chose to always say that you got to get 2% better today?
Well, we came up with that idea. You always talk to the kids about improving every day. And we didn't have a goal or a scale to see how much they improve. We'd have 20 practice opportunities, and maybe one or two were in shorts. And we got together and we decided that we were going to challenge the kids to improve 2% every day in spring practice. If they accomplish that in 20 practices, they would be 40% better than they were before they started. That's a pretty significant improvement. And it wasn't measured when they got there, it was measured every day. They kept a record of it. If a kid improved 1%, he had to improve 2% the next day because he was behind. 3%, just to get back where he's supposed to be. And every day when they'd come to that meeting, they'd get that chart and look at it, and they were honest about it. I said, listen, if you were less than 2, you be truthful about it, because we're going to hold you to where we want you to be at the end of spring. And it was a day-by-day scale that they could evaluate themselves and know, I'm a little bit ahead or I'm a little bit behind. What have I got to do the next day? And at the end of spring, I think there was probably, I would say 95% of them had themselves improving 2% a day. Well, we go through the summer, we're not working with them or anything, but we decided that in the fall we were going to do it again. So we talked with them about it. You get 29 practice opportunities back then. Well, now they only get 15 instead of 20 in the spring. At 29, and 2 or 3 of them were in shorts, a couple of them in shells, whatever. So we said, let's go 20% again. And so we had a running tab for them. Same thing happened. So a kid is 90%, no, it's 80%. That's it, old math. They were 80% better than they were the year before. Man, that is really big time there now. And the confidence that they had, because they know they got better, and the only way they could get better was to work their fanny off every day at practice. And so we were selling that because every significant accomplishment was always preceded by an outstanding preparation. So we were selling that to them, and they were able to keep up with it. And you know what? Kids come back, players come back, and they tell me they're still doing that in their businesses. in their home or whatever. And that was, it's just something, and I don't really remember who came up with it. I'd like to claim it. But it was one of our coaches. We decided that's what we're going to do. And the guys bought into it. And, they say if it works in football, why can't it work in my business and whatever. I would say at least 15, 20 guys have mentioned that when they come back, for a reunion or whatever. Or sometimes just call or write and say it. But the 2% rule is pretty big.
They still love you.
That might have been an oversell. Maybe you can't improve 2%. But if they believe they have, that's just as important in your mind, because perception is a reality.
Amen.
All right. So, expecting a good season?
Yeah.
All right. That's all we need to do.
Yeah. All we got to do is just got to build every week.
2% better every day.
2%.
You put that on. I might climb. When I get on, if I get blessed to be your age, I'm gonna use that to say I made it.
It don't matter who came up with it. I know it works. I saw it work.
That's it. Very few did it better than Coach Andrews. Again, one of the staples at Florida State, the Florida State that most of us know and most of us are aware of, was centered around great coaches, great leaders of men. Like I said, obviously we got a chance to interview Coach Bowden last week. We would have been remiss if we didn't get an opportunity to speak with Coach Andrews. And I remember him fondly as a kid on the sideline and also as a player on the sideline. And the seminal attitude that a lot of you guys grew up liking and that you want to see back was he's very humble, but a lot of it was a reflection of his attitude as well as the other men that he brought around him that we mentioned in this today. I really appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time, Coach. And there's so many other questions I got to ask you. I want to know about, but we don't have time. I want to know about what it was like to be coached by Bear, and I want to know, because I know there's some things that I say that Coach Bowden, when I was coaching, that Coach Bowden said that reckless abandon and total disregard for personal safety, which is probably not politically correct now to say, but if you're going to play a violent sport, you probably should play it like that. And then I know I have some.
Well, you do have pads on.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and a helmet.
I found that if I go and I hit the person before they hit me, I'm less likely to get hurt.
There you go.
And Carmen, my mama was only concerned about her deductible. She wasn't concerned about other people's insurance deductible.
And it was like we used to tell Randy, our coach's job was to get the players hurt, and his job was to get them well. And we always stayed ahead of him, it seemed like. Not really, but just had to talk about Randy a little bit.
Randy, man.
One of the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you, Coach. I'm glad I got to meet you. See, you got them South Alabama roots, too. So.
Yeah. Wiregrass.
Wiregrass area, but Seminoles.
That's it.
Stand out.
That's it.
My family will say that. I'm a Bama family.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. This is Danielle Kelley, D. Kelley 21, with my co-host, Big Game James 36, James Coleman for 36 Degrees with Wave 94 here in Tallahassee. Thank you to the legendary Mickey Andrews for being with us today, and to all of you for listening in. As always, go Noles.